The career of the famous Nicolas Cage began to stagnate in the second half of the noughties. Many of the actor's expensive films started to fail at the box office, such as Bangkok Dangerous, Lord of War, The Wicker Man. However, successful works from Cage still happened. In 2007, the sequel to National Treasure performed well in cinemas, and in 2009, Knowing was directed by Alex Proyas showed promising results. The year 2010 was a turning point for Nicolas Cage. He got his last blockbuster budget at his disposal. The Sorcerer's Apprentice was entirely a project of Nicolas Cage, whose idea for the film was his. After the successes of The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, all the Hollywood studios were on the lookout for fantasy books, which could be turned into a profitable franchise. Almost all these attempts were unsuccessful, but Nicolas Cage didn't know that. He approached his friend the producer Jerry Bruckheimer with the idea for a new magic film. Jerry in those years was the most influential and highest-grossing producer in Hollywood. They worked together many times before 2010 on. The Rock, Gone in 60 Seconds, Con Air were box office hits. Only in 2009 did their joint project fail in theaters' mediocre G-force. But hardly Nicolas, the voice of the guinea pig, can be blamed for the failure of this picture. Jerry Bruckheimer, on the wave of the crazy success of the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, quickly found a Disney studio budget of $150 million for the idea of Nicolas Cage. After all, Cage was still considered a big star. They had grand plans. They planned to turn The Sorcerer's Apprentice into a trilogy. There was even a full-length animated movie scheduled. After the Pirates franchise, which grossed almost $3 billion at the box office, Disney Studios invested money in the new Bruckheimer's project, not really caring where it would be spent. After all, Hollywood thought that Bruckheimer and success were synonymous. This would eventually lead to a series of failures and a breakdown between the studio and the producer after The Lone Ranger. And Jerry's first impressive failure at Disney Studios would be precise: The Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage. The waste of money on the making of the film was enormous. Bruckheimer and Cage got the most considerable royalties for themselves in those years. After The Sorcerer's Apprentice, they never made that much money again. Cage did everything he could think of in the production of the film. He participated in writing the script, worked part-time as a producer, did the editing, and personally chose the costumes for the shooting. Unfortunately, it was all for nothing as the film failed according to the test crew and the studio. After the test screenings, they deleted almost 30 minutes of the film. The failure was severe at the USA. The Sorcerer's Apprentice earned only $63 million worldwide. Box office added another $152 million. But all of this did not even pay off the production budget. Cage and Bruckheimer attributed the failure to the film's unfortunate release date. The month of July was oversaturated with premieres aimed at children's audiences, and the box office hits of Despicable Me and Toy Story 3, which were screened in the cinemas along with Nicolas, also went to the cinemas. Quite popular Karate Kid and The Last Airbender, which also had children's ratings. Moreover, started Nicolas Cage in the box office on the same day as Inception by Christopher Nolan. In the summer months at the box office in the USA, there are always many premieres, and all of the named films also competed with each other, and only Nicolas Cage failed. The Last Airbender is also considered a failure, but it still made twice as much money as The Sorcerer's Apprentice. The film was one of the major losers of the 2010 summer season. Nicolas Cage's career as a big star came to an immediate end. The actor lost a couple of lucrative contracts, and the budget for the second installment of Ghost Rider was cut by $43 million. If the first part of the Ghost Rider was a blockbuster budget, then the sequel was a movie in another budget category. Immediately after The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Nicolas Cage consolidated his success with 4 more failures: Drive Angry, Seeking Justice, The Frozen Ground, and Trespass failed to earn anything at the theaters. In 2012, Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance performed poorly at the box office. Nicolas Cage's career was over, and he began to appear in films that are hard to call movies. The actor now manages to appear in 6 7 and sometimes even 8 films a year. He gets for them, of course, not the money they paid him 10 or even 20 years ago. The success of The Sorcerer's Apprentice could have saved Cage if the film had been successful, and the studio launched a sequel in the works, and it is unlikely that Nicholas would have quickly found himself a B movie, or maybe he wouldn't have gotten there at all.